kind of thing. All right, it looks like my phone just let me know that we're starting video 2, I guess, so that's fine. Oh, it's interesting. Now look what ended up there. Witch. All right, Spirit, thank you for a card for Divine Masculines with all this crazy energy. Oh, ooh, look at what was I just talking about at the beginning of the video? Isn't that funny? Witch. And I love this. There was a reading I did a while back where it was like this, and actually, didn't we just say, look, this was what was on the bottom when those 3 cards fell out? But witch in upright, and I love that it's the, it's the stereotypical, which is not always fun, of witch stuff, but it's the stereotypical conical hat and broom and things like that. And it suggests, that Halloween, that blue moon energy is going to be significant. But this very much, I'm going to take this to mean that, intuitively what I've been sensing and joking about with some of my divine feminine friends is that there are a lot of divine masculines who are recognizing in fact, I think this energy is very relevant. Like, look at, and what's funny is, okay, look at what the hands are holding. There's an apple and a cookie. Now, what's funny is, how do you know which one is good or not good? Because if you look at the fairy tales, that apple could be from the Wicked Witch, right? It could be the poison apple that puts Snow White to sleep. And the cookie also, I mean, the cookie's not exactly the healthiest option, but man, a lot of us have really good memories to do with cookies, right? And vice versa, an apple, assuming that it's not a poison apple, is really healthy for you and probably be a better choice than a cookie. And if you train your brain to be able to recognize that healthy natural foods are actually much more of a treat for you, then that's better. Wow, I just heard in my head trick or treat. That's what this is, trick or treat. Like, which one do you know? Which one is the trick and which one is the treat? And that, look, this is a girl dressed as a witch for Halloween, trick or treat. So somehow Halloween and Samhain are important, and making choices and the clarity of that. Like, even as I was saying in the beginning, there's a fair amount of the energy that that a lot of them are kind of in the space of, like, some of them are probably a little bit freaked out by, your healing abilities, or they're being freaked out by others, or they're having conversations, or they're having conversations with others about it, especially if you've continued to glow up and work on your spirituality, if you've done channels like this and stuff like that. They're starting to recognize the difference between, like, Glinda, the Good Witch, and the Wicked Witch of the West, which actually I'd like to point out too, like, I loved the Wicked series, and I love that it went in and pointed out that the Wicked Witch of the West was actually more of the hero. Glinda wasn't bad necessarily, but she was, in that version of it, she was just simply more of a socialite, whereas the Wicked Witch of the West was actually only named Wicked because she was politically active and she didn't fit in with the social norm. She was like, well, I'm already green. Like, I love it. Elphaba is a great series. I definitely recommend you read it, and I think that has a lot to do with this energy, is like, I think a fair amount of divine feminines were, because, if you've been authentic, you've been embracing yourself, you've been following your path, that you kind of got painted as the Wicked Witch of the West, and, like, as if you'd had green skin and things like that. But people are finding out that actually you've been the good guy of the story for most of the story, and that it was actually the people calling you the Wicked Witch that changed that. And wow, sorry, I just had the image in my head because I recently changed this channel from being called Madame Thanatos to Wickedly Divine Feminine, right? And I wasn't even thinking about that at that time. But, that really highlights witch, right? And I had some intuitive thoughts last night that a fair amount of masculines are finding out, and not very happy about finding out, that one or many of their karmics have actually been practicing like literal spell work, or putting things in their food to enchant them and things like that, like, and then have been telling them that their divine feminines have been doing things like that. And also spell work can sometimes stand in for gaslighting, so there, there's plenty of that in there. But it's interesting because I don't know, like in my mind, I don't picture a whole lot of karmics actually being like actually witchy, but there are some out there that do that. And, especially if your masculine needed some contrast to recognize the difference between somebody um, witchy in a healing way and respectful of free will, and looking at do what ye will, or so long as you harm none, do what ye will, kind of thing, versus somebody who will do whatever they want, whether it hurts others or not. And that doesn't necessarily have to be in a spiritual way, but I think that they're definitely learning which is which is which. And also that reminds me too of something that I said to my DM at one point in time. Like, spirit has intentionally put in front of you a lot of a lot of karmics who all act very similarly, and even I and act similarly with them. Most of it was I was aware that they were copying me, and I pay attention to a lot of the readings, so I know that they were trying to imitate me because they see how happy he acts around me most of the time. I mean, unless we get on specific hot topics, he kind of lights up around me, and I know that they've seen that and they've heard him talk about us. And that I ironically, for all the years that I was insecure, that actually I've been the one that's been the biggest threat to all these karmic energies, even though I'm genuinely not doing anything other than being his friend. Like, I'm not even attached to an outcome anymore. Like, if we don't, we're twin flames. We'll always be connected. I'm not worried about it at this point. But that makes me a bigger threat, and me working on my spirituality makes me a bigger threat to them. And I know that a lot of divine masculines are really starting to see that. There are things being revealed to them that they didn't really want to see, and they're starting to recognize how many. Actually, this makes sense too, because the Halloween depiction of a witch is not very accurate. It's Hollywood style. There are some things, I mean, a fair amount of people who practice, witchy spiritualities will have brooms. They'll have made old brooms like that, and they, back in the day, before we had the brooms that we have made now, there were brooms like this. This is how you made a broom. But the conical hats were about charging energy, and they weren't usually wide brimmed and things like that. Most witches aren't dark or goth or things like that. And they don't have warts and whatnot. We're normal people, right? But the karmics will often kind of do a similar thing when they see how divine feminine is acting, especially if you've not been chasing your divine masculine and they're still connecting with you, or they're choosing you, or if they fight about you and stuff like that. Like, they try to imitate divine feminine. But the funny thing is that the harder they try to do that, the more obvious it becomes how Hollywood it is. That they don't get it, because you are the way that you are because of how because of your inner being, how you are on the inside. Like, if you're kind with your masculine, you're doing it because you are kind and because you appreciate them. Whereas somebody in karmic energy is doing it to try, like, please like me, or give me your money, or do this, or because I'm afraid to be alone, or there's all these reasons, but it's not genuine. It's not genuine. And I think a lot of masculines are really starting to recognize the value in that genuineness. So let's get a card for divine feminine. I'm feeling extra chatty today. Isn't that interesting? I'm seeing the rose card come out here. It didn't pop out, but it came out and looked significant. Thank you for divine feminine energy. One card. Let's see where we are. Seen the 8 card twice, so some strength probably. Oh, interesting. I got 2 cards, but I think I'm just gonna take the 1. but I will show it. So we got Sun in reverse and Peak. Actually, you know what? I am going to take both of them. An interesting look. The 8 card did end up on top. These are double-sided. So, and then Dear, as in a letter, like a postcard, like Dear Smithy. I'm not going to say Dear John, but Dear Smithy. It's interesting, though. So Peak Sun. And with Sun in reverse. Oh, and look on the back. Here comes the sun, right? But Sun, so Peak Sun. For divine feminine energy. I mean, clearly, I think for a fair amount of you, at least on that I'm channeling for, you have children with your divine masculine. And it might also be that your divine masculine got wrapped up with a karmic who has children. They may have thought that one of them was their children, or there may have been some sort of illusion that came in, like maybe a fake pregnancy attempting to keep them around a little bit longer or something like that. Maybe you're sensing that, or it could also be that, being that this is reversed, maybe there's trouble in the connection between your divine masculine and your children, especially if you have boys. Or it could be very simply that they're working on healing inner child wounds, fatherhood wounds. And with that being Peak in there, actually, I just had the thought come in, the vision come in of like, how do I turn the vision into words? You are glowing up, divine feminine, and that is bringing up a fair amount of insecurities in your divine masculine, but I get the sense that most of us are recognizing that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, if we slow ourselves down and we don't rise up to our peak, just because we don't want to, make our divine masculines feel lesser or inadequate, or or having good boundaries that include, like, especially if you co-parent, like, no, you're going to be empathetic and you're going to be mature, and we need to be able to talk about anything that affects the children. And if they're not at a place yet where they're respecting those boundaries, you still got to stand on your peak. And actually, this is interesting too. How Capricorn is that, right? We were just talking about that energy of like Capricorn rising up and standing on the peak. I think this is the main one, actually. I know that Sun was the one that I thought came out first, but I think this is more divine feminine energies, and it's just more like you're rising up, but you're kind of keeping, if you have children, you're keeping them as like a priority right behind your glowing up. And also you're probably recognizing that in what you're doing, you're healing your own inner childhood stuff and your own father wounds, and like maybe releasing codependence, and you're probably triggering your masculine just in your glowing up energy, and you're kind of aware of that, like as if it's just behind there, like you're just aware of it. I would also, it also to me suggests that a fair amount of you are having conversations about co-parenting, and that could also be a part of this witch energy for divine masculines. Like they probably want to talk with you and do stuff about that, but a fair amount of them, they had parents, especially mothers, who used their masculines or their boyfriends or their fathers inappropriately. And they're probably with karmics who are also doing the same thing. So they're really learning to recognize you as an individual, and not looking at like all women are this way or all men are that way. And I think that's a fair amount on both sides there, like kind of healing that energy of like all men are pigs, or all men are cheaters, or all ABC is XYZ, or all women are gold diggers, or a lot of the negative context that we have about each gender, and like healing a fair amount of that energy, which is really interesting with Mars and Jupiter going retrograde, or sorry, coming out of retrograde, and Saturn coming out of retrograde in Capricorn, which presents very masculine but is one of the most feminine signs. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so let's get a little bit of a shuffle in here. Thank you. All right, thank you for showing me what's going on for divine masculines. We'll add to this witch card. Thank you for showing me what's going on with divine masculines. Let's say 2 or 3 cards. Ooh, I saw that 8 of Cups almost pop out there. And there it is again. Oh, 10 of Wands almost wanted to come out there. Wanting to leave a burdensome situation. Thank you. Oh, what do we got here? Whoa, wow, okay, we got a bunch. I'm not going to take all those. I'll take these 2, though. We have, interesting, the 3 of Cups and the Queen of Wands reversed. And typically, now sometimes the Queen of Wands, even in upright, can be very karmic energy, but I typically look at the Queens when they are reversed as karmic energy in general. Now, the 3 of Cups, usually in upright, is one of the most joyful cards, and it can often signify union or reunion, but it can also signify a third party. It is the 3 of Cups. Now, actually, with the witch card in there, remember I talked about, like, with my own DM, like, Spirit has set it up so that there are a lot of queens around each other who all seem to act similarly, like, especially if they're imitating me and trying to be either spiritual or kind or and I said, look, Spirit is trying to get you to see which is the Queen of Hearts, which is the Queen of Cups. This suggests that they're revealing themselves, which is something as a Capricorn I've learned very well over time, that the best thing that I can do when someone is not seeing me, if they're seeing me as this, when I know that I'm more in this energy, it doesn't do me any good to fight with them and try to defend myself. All I have to do is sit back and be myself and just, keep being kind and keep healing, and eventually Spirit reveals all. Spirit reveals what the truth of the matter is. It's happened time and time again, and sometimes it's frustrating because I have to be super, super patient about it. But it always happens. Like, it always gets revealed. And I think, especially with this being on the bottom of the deck now for Divine Masculines, that they're dealing with a lot of feminine energy. That's 4, the Queen and 3 in there. This does suggest the ending of a third-party situation and trouble in friendship, and it's definitely emotional, dealing with the Cups and even the Wands. The Queen of Wands, if you look at her, especially in upright, she doesn't have any of her blockers. She doesn't have any of her chakras blocked. It's interesting because they're blockeras like this. Chakras? Blockeras, right? But she's very, in upright, she's very heart forward, right? Now, and she's charming, she's got good banter, she knows how to manifest things. She's like, I'm all that in a bag of chips. You don't even need any dip with me, right? But in this way, she might be saying that to you, but she's not. She doesn't genuinely feel that way, but she might, in a narcissistic way, be acting that way, very holier than thou and things like that. And she keeps a lot of secrets. She will use her sexuality to get ahead, to hurt others. She's very tit for tat. She'll use her charm and wit to hurt, and this is, I'd imagine, there might even be a fair amount of you divine feminines, especially if your divine masculine has, been cutting out and you've not really worked on healing to releasing the need to teach them a lesson, which I know from personal experience is easier said than done. But if you've not been doing that, then some of this could be you too. But either way, masculines are definitely having some trouble in friendship. They could have a cat or be thinking about a cat or be seeing cats, and somehow cats are significant for you and them. They're definitely tired of the partying, though. I think a fair amount of them, especially when they went into separation with you, they kind of I mean, they went the dark night of the soul. Like, they went very immature. They went, fine, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to drink a lot. I'm going to do this and that. I'm just going to be a huge, incredible child about things because I can, because I want to. And I'm gonna be the worst of myself because I'm confused and I don't really even recognize what I'm doing. But now they're starting to see a lot of that, and they're really getting tired of the partying, especially with C19 having come up. It's like, really, that's all they've been able to do is sit around and drink and mess with the third party situations. They've probably been wrapped up in even more than you know about. Like, you may know about a karmic or a couple of karmics, but really they've had exes coming back, they've had new people coming in, they've had temptation after temptation. And the irony is, if they have not been interacting with you in that way, you should actually feel really, really grateful, because it means that they respect you. They see you as this and this. And they've been interacting with these people, and they probably even had a couple of friends that are mutual between the two of you who have been telling them to act right, to treat you right. Don't drag you into the drama and stuff. Like, you're different. Like, and they really shouldn't be involved in the drama, but don't be dragging divine feminine into that. That's not fair. And so if they've not been interacting with you, if they've not been, like, calling you for booty calls or trying to get you involved in the drama and stuff, take that, that no contact stuff, that the limited communication, be appreciative of that. Don't pry into that. They're probably protecting you even from, this energy, this toxicity energy going on. Now, with the Two of Wands in reverse down here, ooh, goodness. Queen of Wands in reverse underneath that. I want to see what their hot topic is. Oh, my. This is the hot topic, right? So right on top of the deck, the Four of Wands in reverse. So the hot topic is instability in the home, in a house situation, in a marriage situation, and also this card in upright is Twin Flames card in reverse is very much a false flames card. I have a feeling right now, especially with this Jupiter energy and all the Mars energy and the clash of the Titans, that a fair amount, especially with this, that a fair amount of masculines have started to recognize they've been with a cheap imitation that was really only there for the money or the social status or because of codependent issues or things like that. But either way, they're feeling totally unstable in their homes, and it's so bad that they're actually talking about it. They're actually talking about it. Maybe with you, maybe not with you, but this is the main topic. Like, they could have a whole lot of debt. They could be trying to carry themselves and their karmics and others, or maybe if you guys share kids, trying to do that too. They have an incredible debt. They may be finding out that a great amount of that debt is because of their karmics, and the rest of it is because they've been indulging, right? They've been partying hard and not saving their money and not being mature in appropriate ways, and their homes are falling apart. In fact, wow, I just got the image that for a fair amount of them, I want to say this energy is now, it's very strong, but it's going to last for a couple of months. But they are, for a lot of them, they're losing any home situations that they had. They may have rented a house or bought a house. They may have had big plans to buy property. When they jumped in with these karmics, they probably, talked a whole big game and stuff like that. But because this was karmic lessons for them, and because a lot of them did not leave the situation when the first few red flags came in, because it was a false flame, like, it was meant to keep them enchanted and trapped so that they could learn these lessons. But a lot of them are starting to recognize you reap what you sow, and their abundance got restricted. Work is slowing down. The money coming in is slowing down. The people who borrowed money are not paying it back, and they want more money, and there's more delays. And the wands are about communication. There could be misunderstandings and like phone problems, computer problems. If they work in communications at all, there could be problems. But definitely in the home, there are issues with communication. It's very unstable, and what they want is this. what they want is this, but what they have right now is this, and this is what they're talking about. Especially if they're not talking about it with you so much, they're definitely talking about it with others. And if they're not talking about it with you, recognize that, and if your divine masculine is not like being very social or coming around or doing a lot of stuff, because they don't want you to see this. A fair amount of them too, they they imagine you, especially if you told them and warned them or tried to help prevent them from falling from grace like this, they're feeling miserable. That song in the beginning, Nobody Knows It But Me, I think a fair amount of them, this isn't just false flame energy, it's them recognizing what they had with you and recognizing that you warned them and you tried to help them have this, but they thought you were this. They thought you were the bad kind of witch when you were the good kind of witch, and you were trying to be helpful to them, and they don't want you to see this. They don't want, especially if you have a masculine that is like presenting that everything is all good and they're all happy and things like that, when you know that that's not typically their MO, it's because they don't want you to know how bad it is. They don't want you to have to be a part of all of this stuff. They want to get stability back on their own, because a lot of them probably recognize that their stability before was because of all the work that you did. And they don't want to have to put all that burden on you anymore, especially if they're really recognizing that you are the good witch. They know that when you see them unhappy, you see this, that it hurts your heart and it kicks up your protective energy. And they don't want that. I actually get the sense that this is them blocking a lot of communication that could be coming your way from karmics, which makes sense because, like, look at this. These are on the bottom of the deck. The Two of Wands and the Queen of Swords reversed.